Good morning, Brazil. My name is Shlomo Maital. I'm a professor here at the S. Niemann Institute for National Policy Research at the Technion-Israel Institute of Technology, and I'm honored to address your conference and apologize I could not come in person to speak to you and to meet with you. I'd like to share with you some of the lessons we've learned in Israel about practical entrepreneurship, and hopefully you can apply them successfully in Brazil. Before we begin, a short personal message. A year ago, my wife and I were in Brazil. We arrived in Sao Paulo, and the next day, my wife fell ill. And we rushed her to Albert Einstein Medical Center, and the wonderful medical team there saved her life. So this talk, for me, is a small down payment on a great debt that we owe to your beautiful country. So I'd like to share with you 5 practical lessons that we've learned here in Israel about entrepreneurship. Israel is regarded as the startup nation, and we have a good deal of experience, and perhaps some of this is relevant and useful for you in Brazil. The 5 lessons have to do with building a vibrant urban entrepreneurial system, about the incubator and accelerator model, how to strengthen them, why technology should come last in a startup, not first. Also, the importance of distributing the benefits of an entrepreneurial ecosystem widely among the population. And finally, crossing that terrible valley of death between an idea, a discovery, and commercial success. So let's begin with creating a vibrant urban entrepreneurial ecosystem. This is like a puzzle. You put together the puzzle and the pieces. You assemble the pieces. You need an anchor university. You have a great one in Cuiaba, for example, and of course in Sao Paulo. You need good schools. You need housing. You need manageable traffic. I think crossing a Sao Paulo traffic in rush hour is a small miracle. You need nightlife, political leadership. You need finance and money for the startups, especially seed money, and a critical mass of entrepreneurs and skills, talents that you can call upon. And you need to put all of these things together. And this can be done not just in Sao Paulo. I'll tell you a small story. I brought a group of Israeli managers to a place called Oulu in Finland. We got on a plane in Helsinki and we flew 800 kilometers north, almost to the Arctic Circle, to a frigid city, a freezing cold city with a great university. And the students there in Oulu loved the place and remained afterwards to start companies. And a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem was developed there despite the freezing cold. So this can be done in Cuiaba, in Mato Grosso, just as well as in Sao Paulo, but you need all of these pieces. So together with my friend Daniel Kuker and Fabio Kahn of the University of Sao Paulo, we did a study of the Sao Paulo entrepreneurial ecosystem and the key pieces. Human capital, people, money, academic research, scientific breakthroughs that translate into great entrepreneurial startups. In the global startup ecosystem ranking, Sao Paulo ranks number 12 in the world, and it's moving up. It's going to move up even more, because the things holding it back are talent and startup experience, but these are growing over time. Sao Paulo has another advantage. The established urban entrepreneurial ecosystems are kind of getting used up, like Boston and even Silicon Valley. And emerging ecosystems like Sao Paulo are coming to the fore. So there's great potential in Brazil, and you can create new entrepreneurial ecosystems outside of the great cities in Mato Grosso, but you need to have all the pieces. You need to put all the pieces in place, as we've learned here, for example, in Tel Aviv. Second lesson, this has to do with incubators and accelerators, which is a topic of interest to Anprotec. Don't fall in love with a conventional incubator accelerator model. There are a number of ways to strengthen it, and I'm going to show you 2 ways that we've used here in Israel. But before that, the incubator metaphor relates to a startup as a premature baby, born and it's in delicate condition, and you need to put it into a warm, safe environment. This is not a good metaphor. The right metaphor is that a startup is a baby gazelle born on the steppes of Africa. And as it's born, the lion lurks nearby. And unless that baby gazelle gets on its feet and begins to run very quickly, the lion will get it. That's a startup. And sometimes incubators remove the sense of urgency in ways that may damage the health of this baby startup, the baby gazelle. So let me show you 2 possible complements to an incubator model. And the first is the Rad Ecosystem. Rad Ecosystem is a startup founded by Yehuda Ziesapel in 1981. And he used a very strange strategy to build a vast ecosystem of 128 startups. He fired his best people. What kind of advice is that for a startup, to fire your most creative people? The answer is that a startup has to be very focused, but your creative engineers will come to you with wild ideas all the time. What do? You tell them to shut up and do their job, they're very unhappy. They may leave. Tell them, yes, we'll do it, and then your company loses focus. Yehuda simply said, good idea, let's try it. I have an office next door. Go next door and start a company. We'll help you. We'll give you advice, infrastructure, management, marketing, HR, and maybe a bit of money. See what you can do. This cloud of 128 companies all emerged from Rad. The success rate is 70%, which is much, much higher than the average success rate of a startup. And the key is this anchor company, Rad, and the model of Rad is seen in the next slide. And you see the model here in a conventional startup, maybe in a conventional incubator. It takes over 30 months to hire people and put the team in place, when this baby gazelle has to run from day one. How do you do that? Well, you do the vertical model. You use Rad, the mothership, for help with administration, legal, engineering, production, HR, finance, and so on. And you begin to operate urgently from day one and get to market much faster, and hence the higher success rate. So, lesson, in your incubator, put in place an anchor company with a public-minded, public-spirited CEO and management team who are willing to invest some time, not a whole lot, in helping startups, and have them spin off startups. In doing so, you can make entrepreneurship viral. Like a flu virus, it will spread. Only this virus is positive, it does good for Brazil, and we want it to spread as quickly as possible. Here's another model, a second model to strengthen the incubator or accelerator approach. On Sunday, I visited a laboratory at the Department or Faculty of Chemical Engineering at the Technion. It was the laboratory of Professor Avi Schroeder, called the Laboratory for Targeted Drug Delivery. Notice how much chemical engineering has changed from training engineers to run smelly factories to deliver drugs to a cancer tumor. In this laboratory, breakthrough research is being done on new methods for treating cancer. Next door, literally right next door to the lab, is a startup called Via Aqua, Water of Life. And in the startup, we saw tanks with shrimp, because some of the technology discovered by Professor Schroeder is useful for curing the flu virus in shrimps that kill them in shrimp farms and reduce profitability and damage our ability to feed the world's population. This model works. The startup next door, 5 people working there in a small cramped quarters, but they have access to the equipment, to the infrastructure, and of course to Professor Schroeder. And that next door geography is highly important. Even a few hundred yards of separation greatly diminishes communication between startup and lab or founding professor. We've discovered this from research. So think about your universities putting startups inside the university right next door to the laboratory. This takes flexibility on the part of the university. Fortunately, my university, Technion, has been very flexible and very, very encouraging. Lesson number 3. Last year, during my wife and I wonderful visit to University of Sao Paulo, I was asked by Professor Ari Plonsky, my good friend, who has facilitated this talk, and I'd like to thank him. My wife and I visited University of Sao Paulo, and I gave a talk to the group called Management of Technology. And with Israeli chutzpah, impudence, the title of the talk was Technology Comes Last. Even in technology-driven startups where technology is central. What kind of message is that for engineers, that technology comes last? Well, the point here is I've seen so many startups over my 45 years of teaching and educating, started by engineers, brilliant, who do magic with technology. Arthur Clarke once said that truly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's true. And I've seen startup entrepreneurs do magic, but they fail. They fail because nobody really needs their magic, and they didn't bother to establish whether somebody wanted or needed it. So technology comes last. Well, what comes first? What comes first is start with why, start with for whom, and become an evidence-based startup. Bring me data. Here's an example. And a visit to Babson College near Boston in America, #1 in the world for undergraduate entrepreneurship education. I found a startup. The startup was based on a key fact that they used strategically to raise money. And the fact was that in America, where lots and lots of garbage is created, in Brazil too, of course, and in my country, Israel, 179,000 trash-hauling diesel trucks get 2.8 miles per gallon of mileage, and they use 1 billion gallons of diesel fuel per year. How much air pollution, how much carbon dioxide does that create? Is there some way of reducing that terrible impact on the environment? Well, why don't we compact the trash with a solar-powered trash compactor with a photovoltaic cell on the top? And a company called Seahorse Power was founded, raised some money, and now you see these little trash compactors all over Boston, and they save 3 trips out of 4 for these diesel polluting trucks. Start with who, with why, what is the need, and then pull the technology in. That's a much better recipe for success. Lesson number 4. Suppose you succeed in building a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem in Cuiaba, or in Sao Paulo, or anywhere. And you have lots of wonderful startups, and some of them succeed and create wealth, jobs, and exports. We found in Israel this does not guarantee economic gains for all, widespread economic gains for all, not in the least. What you see on your screen are radar diagrams for 5 key dimensions of social and economic well-being. The dark blue one is innovation, and Israel leads in many indicators. These, by the way, are radar diagrams. They reflect Israel's ranking in 6, 7, or 8 variables in each dimension. The farther out you are on the circle, the higher the rank. The center of the circle is the lowest rank out of 60 globally competitive countries. Israel ranks high, very high in innovation by the size or the area of the wheel. We rank high in science and technology. Look at the economy dimension. We have GDP per capita of $32,000. That's pretty high, but not as high perhaps as it should be given our innovation, startup nation, and so on. 8% of the Israeli workforce works in high tech. They earn good salaries. What about the other 92%? The gains have not been spread equally. An important lesson for Brazil. Can you find ways to ensure that your entrepreneurship, as it grows and succeeds, also delivers benefits to the general population of Brazil in education, in jobs, in exports, and in wealth? We have not cracked that problem yet in Israel. You know, the moon has a bright side, and when visitors come to my country, we talk about the bright side of our innovation. But there's a dark side to the moon, and this is our dark side. The high-tech sector has not spread in its knowledge and capabilities into the traditional parts of the economy. And finally, to close, the last idea or last lesson that we've learned that may help Brazil. We know now in every country there's a valley of death between an idea and commercial success. I have a written version of my talk that Marion can provide you. I can also send it to you if you contact me by email. I'll give you my email in a moment. Death Valley between California and Nevada got its name in 1849 when gold prospectors died crossing it. The temperature there reaches 57 or 60 degrees centigrade. There's a similar valley of death between an entrepreneurial idea and market success. To implement an idea, you need money, people, talent, management ability, marketing, access to markets. You need to do prototypes, you need to get to market quickly, quality control, all of these things while you're struggling to raise money, make ends meet, and get some positive cash flow. It's very important not just to encourage startups. Israel has 6,900 high-tech startups, but guess what? Very few of them actually make money, and actually relatively few have any revenue at all. Many are still stuck in the development stage and will never get beyond that stage. Find ways to help your companies cross the valley of death into marketplace success. Raise the success rate from 7 or 8% to 10, 12, 15, 20% with timely seed money, with mentoring, with anchor companies that help mentor startup companies and other approaches. I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to ask you to please send me emails. I provide free consults, quick ones by email. I answer quickly. I can send you some material on all of these 5 lessons that I've researched, studied, and written about. And again, I wish you all great success. Wish you well. Thank you for listening, and I wish you great success with your conference. Obrigado.